You'll hear 5 different people talking about why they visited or moved to a particular place. Choose from the list A to F the statement that best describes each speaker's experience. Use the letters only once. There is one extra letter which you do not need to use. Speaker 1.
I'd always wanted to visit Australia, and when my friend Sarah, who lives in Sydney, invited me to her wedding, I accepted the invitation immediately. I arrived in Sydney about a week before the wedding and spent as much time as possible taking in the sights. The Sydney Opera House was one of the highlights of my trip. I went on a guided tour of the various theatres and I watched a musical. I also went to the Sydney Aquarium. There's a glass chamber in the aquarium that allows visitors to get a close look at some incredible sea creatures, including sharks. All in all, my holiday was wonderful, and I really enjoyed Sarah's wedding. My only regret is that I never got to see a kangaroo.
Speaker 2.
When I received a letter informing me that I'd been accepted into the College of Dramatic Arts in New York City, I was absolutely thrilled. Still, as excited as I was also a little nervous about leaving home and moving to a new place all by myself. My first day in New York was overwhelming. It's a fast-paced city, and it can be quite a challenge keeping up. It took me a few months to settle in, and there were times when I felt quite homesick. Now I am thoroughly enjoying my studies, and I've just been chosen for the lead role in a play that's being produced at the college. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll see me performing in a play on Broadway. Now wouldn't that be something?
Speaker 3.
I'd been working as an archaeologist for about a year when I heard that Professor Harold Jones, a world-famous scientist, was putting together a team of experts to help him search for a lost city in Mexico. It had always been my dream to work with Professor Jones, so I immediately handed in my resignation and booked a ticket to Mexico. My plan was to convince the professor to let me be part of his team, even though I wasn't very experienced. Luckily, the professor was quite impressed with my CV and decided to give me a job. I've been in Mexico for 6 months now. It's been a wonderful learning experience for me, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Speaker 4.
I'm a writer, and I had been struggling to come up with a suitable ending for my latest book, so my publisher suggested that I go away for a while. I decided to rent a small cabin near Lake Winston, which is about a 2-hour drive from the town where I live. I spent most of my time at the lake swimming, fishing and admiring the glorious sunsets. The scenery was so beautiful that I took as many photos as I could. I must say the experience definitely stimulated my creativity, and by the time I returned home, I had thought of a brilliant ending for my book. Funnily enough, when my publisher saw the photos that I had taken, she told me she wanted to include them in a book on outdoor adventures. I had no idea I was such a skilled photographer.
Speaker 5.
I've been working as an accountant for about 10 years, and I have to admit that adding and subtracting numbers all day long can get a little boring. Last summer, I decided it was time for an adventure, so I took a month off and went to stay with my cousin at his farm. I've always loved animals and was thrilled when my cousin agreed to let me help him with some of the chores. I was even allowed to milk the cows and feed the pigs. Being so close to nature was wonderful, and there were moments during my holiday when I could clearly imagine myself giving up my job in the city and moving to the country. Maybe one day.